pen made mightier without bullets.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Pen Made Mightier. As you can see, we've got a new location. Yeah, I moved. And so did Kirk. And so did Dad. We moved. Pen Made Mightier moved. So this is a new place. So we got a new setup and we're here to put out some new videos for you. So let's get right into it. So we've talked about pilots a little bit before in the past when we touched on sci-fi channels, The Expanse and The Magicians, and the strengths and weaknesses, the pros and cons, the failings and the praisable moments of these two pilots. And now I want to talk about a pilot that was nothing but win for me. I want to talk about AMC's Preacher. Now, if you're not watching this show already, I'm going to spoil the first episode pretty heavily, but I'm going to try not to go beyond that. So, fair warning. Preacher is frigging incredible. This show is not for the faint of spirit, truthfully. And from what I've heard, it takes a lot of liberties from its comic book. But this is AMC we're talking about. Chances are, if you saw an AMC adaptation about this and you know it's based on a comic book, you pretty much expect them to take liberties. I mean, did you see Walking Dead? Did you? Did you watch any of it? Coral! Okay, moving on. So yes, the fine folks over at AMC, together with Seth Rogen? Kirk, is that right? Seth Rogen?
The Seth Rogen.
That Seth Rogen?
You know, that one.
Okay, so AMC, together with Sethy Rogues here, brought us out a Preacher television show. And it's good. It's really good. It's a lot of fun. And, I mean, honestly, we should have expected it. It kind of fills a lot of voids that modern television has left us wanting for. The fine folks at AMC and Sethy Rogues are bringing us another small screen adaptation of another well-loved graphic novel, and why shouldn't they? Walking Dead is making them infinite money. They're already akin to dark stories with shows like Breaking Bad. Constantine got canceled. True Blood is over. I think True Blood is no longer relevant, so they're filling a lot of gaps that have currently been left over for a dark supernatural story that's allowed to push some serious boundaries, while telling a dark and interesting story for the graphic novel fans and printing infinite dollars along the way. At least I hope so, because shows like this deserve to make some bank. Plus, no one in America knows about Code Geass, right? Right? Let's keep going. In this first episode, one 40-minute pilot, they managed to introduce not one complex character, but three interesting and complex characters. You've got Jesse, the titular character, the Preacher, who inherits a strange and mysterious, frightening even, power from God knows where. Beyond that, you've got Tulip, a badass from out of left field who comes in, puts together a MacGyver bazooka, and takes care of some kids while also taking care of business. That's an interesting contrast right there, having this Bonnie and Clyde-esque criminal paired against this Geass-having supernatural Preacher who's a bad guy reformed trying to do good. So in other words, Tulip kind of serves as the demon on his shoulder. Now, strangely enough, even though the woman he loves is the demon on his shoulder, he soon gets a best friend. The third complex character, my personal favorite, Cassidy. Now, Cassidy is a vampire being hunted down by religious nut jobs, and he has an incredible fight scene to introduce himself that ends with him throwing himself out of a plane and devouring cattle in a field in order to recover his stamina. Cassidy, despite being a minion of the night and honestly something a preacher should abhor, ends up being his conscience, the moral side of himself. The angel on his shoulder is a creature of the night, and the demon on his shoulder begging him to do wrong is the woman that loves him most. It develops a world showing us that there are people hunting the power inside the Preacher, that there are holy organizations hunting things that go bump in the night, that there are crimes in this world that are committed by tons of different groups, be it the people that hurt Jesse's father, the people that Jesse used to run with himself, the people that are hunting Cassidy and his kind. They even show racial discrimination in showing the people who are still fighting for the Redskins-esque school mascot going to blows with the new mascot over some really petty crap. In a way, it's almost a perfect metaphor for the show, showing you the conflict that you expect. This PC mascot versus the classic mascots of old, but their conflict between them devolving into a fist fight that no one even tries to break up. It's showing you this is the conflict that you know is going on underneath the surface. The preacher versus the demon. And you know what? We're just going to let them hash it out in front of you. Because that's way more interesting than doing things by the book and just putting people on trial and forcing people to yada yada yada. They developed this world and they set the stakes for these different characters. Cassidy fleeing from his past. Tulip running back towards her past. And Jesse somewhere caught in the middle. Jesse sitting there trying to come to peace with his new role that he has accepted, being a preacher for a small town and trying to bring them to salvation, to fulfill an oath he made to his father, instead of following his basic nature and going after revenge or using his abilities for evil. He's drawn on a fine line and walks it like a tightrope. That's the core conflict of the show. They establish clear goals for all of these characters. You've got Tulip trying to get revenge and trying to make some money. You've got Cassidy trying to avoid the people that would see him dead. And you've got Jesse trying to fulfill the oath he made to his father, to bring salvation to a small town, and now struggling with a new power that should make that all too easy. Along all this, you have the three characters combining their efforts, pulling the trifecta one way and the other, and utterly leading them towards ruin, which is a beautiful fireball to watch as it burns. To go beyond first episode just a little bit, spoilers, this show manages to lay its clues out one piece at a time and guide you towards realizations. These two dudes in suits and cowboy hats come in. They've got some strange tech. They don't act quite natural. They're probably not for the government dressed like that. Did they just come back a second time? Are these guys, oh, they are angels. Okay, I had an inkling. Oh, look, his power can let him make people do whatever he says. What if they take that too literally? How much can he do? Can he make commands multiple times? Ding, ding, ding. We see each of these limitations explored, not explicitly stated. You know, I think about shows like Death Note. Death Note, even in its manga, put all the rules there in front of us, gave us all the limitations of this complex power set right there in the outset. And so there was never any hemming and hawing over what he could or couldn't do. But now we're watching Jesse learn his powers, feel it out, and understanding where the boundaries lie. And that's remarkable. My favorite bit right now is when he established too vague of a command in telling one of his main antagonists to serve God. A command that vague could mean anything depending on your mentality. And because of that, it leads to some shitty situations. It established a consistent jovial tone, a levity despite the horror that you're witnessing on screen. And best of all, it managed to deliver on it consistently. Week after week, we see this expanded on. The tone maintained, but the conflict, the core of the show, is still front and center, smack dab in the middle of each episode. It managed to do in this 40-minute pilot what a lot of first seasons fail to accomplish, and it managed to keep their flow going for an entire season, something that almost no show on modern television can maintain for all of its episodes. Could be because they got more of a limited run. It could be the demanding standards of AMC. Whatever it was, I'm just glad that it worked. If you're out there considering making a pilot, or maybe you're just going to sit down and watch a pilot, see if it does anything as well as Preacher does. And I swear to God, any execs that might be watching this, learn something from AMC. These guys know how to make a pilot. And honestly, by now, you should too. Thanks for sticking with us on Pen Made Mightier. Welcome to the new place, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye now.
mightier without